Today I'm going to be repairing this Sapphire Pulse RX 580, and this card had a really interesting history. I bought it a couple months ago and it never came in the mail. It said it was delivered, but it was not, and then it just randomly showed up along with another GPU. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I'm taking it apart right now. You can see I have my multimeter right there, and I don't know what the problem with this is. It came from a crypto miner, so I was initially suspecting something like memory. There's some articles about, you know, how crypto mining is negatively impacting memory, but I really had no idea. So you can see I've got the fan off and I'm working on the heatsink now. A little bit of a struggle to get it off, and you'll see why in a second. Um, that thermal paste, if you can see, I touched it, it's really crusty, so it actually took me a while to get that off, and I'm doing a little bit of measurement on it, and everything looked normal, nothing was shorted. So I'm doing a power on test now, and you can see I'm using a laptop motherboard with a PCIe riser from an M2 slot, which is all powered by a power supply, and then my laptop's recording this. So quite a strange setup, but it does actually work. Now I'm going to power on the whole setup by turning on the power supply and then plugging in a power adapter off camera. And now I'm going to check if the GPU gets hot, which it gets a little warm, but nothing special, so I know there's some kind of power issue. And now I can do the voltage test. So I'm measuring just all of the different voltage rails, and instead of the resistance test, I'm checking to see what kind of voltages they get. So I found out it has no V-core, and then I did a lot more off-camera testing, and I narrowed it down to this circuit, which you can see right there. That is the voltage controller. So next to it is this little circuit, which is a sense for the 12 volt in, and I found the resistance was very low, something like 1 ohm, which is completely unacceptable for this line. So I know a component must be bad on it, and I suspected the capacitor, so I'm gonna take that off now. I would have used a hot air gun, but you can see those big caps right next to it, and I don't want to heat those up too much because they don't like heat. So I'm just using my soldering iron, and it was indeed powerful enough to just melt the capacitor off. You can see it's not going that well, but this way, we're using the minimum amount of heat possible. So now the capacitor is off, and then I considered replacing it, but eventually I opted not to. I'm measuring it now, and the short, if you will, is gone. So now I just want to pretty up this pad a little bit. There's a little piece of capacitor which was still on it, but more than that, I want to get this looking nice and have this graphics card be fully functional. So yeah, you can kind of see it there. But now I'm just using the soldering iron to make those pads nice and round, so that if I were to install a new capacitor, I would be able to do so. And now I'm just cleaning it up a little bit. Again, it doesn't need it, it's just for sensing. Okay, now I get to test it, so I turned it on, and it takes a little bit to boot up, just a motherboard thing. But now you can see the light turned on, and we get image, so that's a great sign. And now I'm gonna reassemble it. You can see I'm cleaning off the thermal paste. I had to skip this. It took a long time. This thermal paste is very crusty. Now, if you can hear that, I'm using compressed air to blow off all the dust. This is not really a smart idea. You don't want like static or anything building up on it. But now I'm gonna apply some thermal paste using a paste spreader. This is just so I can evenly coat the die. And then now I'm gonna put the heatsink back on. It has a few screws which attach to it, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. Overall, I'd say this repair wasn't too bad. It did take a little bit of effort to diagnose and figure out that specific capacitor was faulty, but thankfully it wasn't anything like the other one, which was a little bit of a nightmare, to be honest, and I'm gonna have a video on that soon, so stay tuned for that. But now you can see I'm screwing in all the screws for the heatsink. A little redundant there, but you know. And then I can put the fan back on. So this graphics card's getting pretty close to complete, you know, looking more assembled now. So then now I can put the backplate on, and you can see that little thermal pad there. I actually ripped it, so I feel a little bad about that. Nevertheless, I really like this design where the backplate actually conducts heat away. So many backplates nowadays are just decorative, and I really don't see the point. Just invest it into something else like better components. And now this graphics card is fully assembled, so let's boot it up. And you can see fans are spinning, everything looks good. It didn't have any drivers, even though I had an RX 580 in here previously. So I reinstalled those, and you can see we're running a game. Everything looks good. So that's this repair completed. If you like what you see, comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you later.